Do you agree with Justice O'Connor that a woman's right to control her reproductive life impacts her ability to quote, participate equally in the economic and social life of the nation, end quote?
Well, as a general proposition, I understand the importance of the precedent set forth in Roe v. Wade. So Roe v. Wade held, of course, and it's reaffirmed in Planned Parenthood versus Casey, that a woman has a constitutional right to obtain an abortion before viability, subject to reasonable regulation by the state, up to the point where that regulation constitutes an undue burden on the woman's right to obtain an abortion. And one of the reasons for that holding, as explained by the court in Roe and also in Planned Parenthood versus Casey more fully, is along the lines of what you said, Senator Feinstein, about the quote from Justice O'Connor. So that's one of the rationales that undergirds Roe v. Wade. It's one of the rationales that undergirds Planned Parenthood versus Casey.
Well, let me give you another one, rationale. In the 1950s and 60s, the 2 decades before Roe, deaths from illegal abortions in this country ran between 200,000 and 1.2 million. That's according to the Guttmacher Institute. So a lot of women died in that period. So the question comes, and you have said today, not today, but it's been reported that you have said that Roe is now settled law. The first question I have of you is, what do you mean by settled law? I tried to ask earlier, do you believe it is correct law? Have your views on whether Roe is settled precedent or could be overturned? And has your views changed since you were in the Bush White House?
Senator, I said that it's settled as a precedent of the Supreme Court entitled to respect under principles of stare decisis. And one of the important things to keep in mind about Roe v. Wade is that it has been reaffirmed many times over the past 45 years, as you know. And most prominently, most importantly, reaffirmed in Planned Parenthood versus Casey in 1992. And as you well recall, Senator, I know when that case came up, the Supreme Court didn't just reaffirm it in passing. The court specifically went through all the factors of stare decisis in considering whether to overrule it. And the joint opinion of Justice Kennedy, Justice O'Connor, and Justice Souter at great length went through those factors. That was the question presented in the case.
Could I interrupt you to say, since you mentioned stare decisis, and I sat on 9 of these hearings, and when the subject comes up, the person says, I will follow stare decisis, and they get confirmed, and then, of course, they don't. So I think knowing going into it how you make a judgment on these issues is really important to our vote as whether to support you or not, because I don't want to go back to those death totals in this country.